Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Source Comic Boom collaboration. This is our spotlight on War for Earth-3, which kicks off this week from DC Comics with War for Earth-3, issue number 1 of 2. And then we have the first tie-in, which is Suicide Squad number 13. So I'm going to go ahead and give the credits for both issues because I'm not sure we might jump around when we talk about them. So the War for Earth-3 Part 1 is written by writers Robbie Thompson and Dennis Hopeless. We have art by Steve Pugh, Dexter Soy, and Brent Peoples. Colors by Matt Herms. Letters by Josh Reed, Travis Lanham, and Simon Boland. For Suicide Squad, it's the regular, for the most part, the regular team of writer Robbie Thompson, but Dennis Hopeless joins him on this issue as well. And then regular art team, Eduardo Pansenka and Julio Ferreira. And then Dexter Soy on his own for some of the pages. Marcelo Maiello on colors. Wes Abbott on letters. Yeah, a lot of goings on in this issue. It's what Suicide Squad and it's been leading up to this for a while. We also saw some hints about what's going on with Suicide Squad and Earth-3 in the Future State story. And this is even going back, if you listen to our DC Spotlight today, you heard Rocky mention it, even going back to pulling in some elements of the Crime Syndicate miniseries that Andy Schmidt wrote. So a lot of moving parts here. But overall, I got to say I wasn't a big fan. So I'll be on that side of the fence, Rocky firmly in the other camp. So yeah, you really seem to enjoy this.
I did. Now, there's a couple of criticisms I have. There is all the covers to this series are connecting, but nonetheless, this opening cover for War for Earth-3, issue 1 of 2, it has Nightwing on the cover. Nightwing he's not even in the issue. So, again, it's a nitpick, but I wish, I love connecting covers when they do it, and these connecting covers are kind of cool, but Nightwing isn't actually in this issue. Obviously Talon is, and so is Owlman, but not Nightwing. Nightwing, I guess that's a teaser he's going to end up at some point, presumably. But in any event, minor nitpick. I'm also not a big fan of the variant covers. I really don't like the alternate cover. I don't know who the artist is here, but I'm not really a fan of these alternate covers. There's one with the Flash and Johnny Quick.
That one's Liam Sharp, surprisingly. I didn't really recognize it as.
Sure, that's actually one of the better ones. Yeah. But what's one thing I do like is that there's a little bit of synchronicity here and continuity between Andy Schmidt's 6-issue Crime Syndicate run and what Robbie Thompson and Dennis Hopeless are bringing to this series, War for Earth-3. And right away we're told something that we didn't really know before, and this takes place that UltraMan he's been sort of, the Crime Syndicate has ruled Earth-3 for 10 years. So right away we know then, because we know Andy Schmidt's 6-issue Crime Syndicate series was really the origin, the first formative years of the Crime Syndicate. So knowing that the Crime Syndicate's been in charge for 10 years here is actually quite telling. And so a lot of the stuff that we know happened and a lot of the questions that we have at the end of Andy Schmidt's Crime Syndicate 6-issue series, we know that a lot could have happened in the last 10 years so that it won't necessarily screw up anything that we've read in that series, which I like. This series starts off with UltraMan and Power Ring, sort of in front of a bunch of almost like worldwide corporate oligarchs that are paying tribute to UltraMan. And you could see actually a picture of Johnny Quick, who is dead, beside UltraMan and Power Ring. So we know that this is consistent with Andy Schmidt's run because Johnny Quick died in that series. And this issue starts off right away with UltraMan wiping out, killing off all these oligarchs, these corporate oligarchs. And it's kind of funny. Power Ring even jokes about it, that, he basically fried them like pieces of bacon, scared their descendants will be terrified. And UltraMan then takes off. And just as he flies back to his satellite in the sky where he gazes down at all the people of Earth-3 because he's basically their ruler. That's when Amanda Waller makes her entrance with the Suicide Squad, and of course she's got Mask, Black Siren. She's got the Demon of Earth, Etrigan of the Brainiac 666 from another part of the multiverse. She's Talon. She's got many other types of different Suicide Squad members that we've never seen before. This is almost like a mini quasi invasion. It looks like it's almost like she boom tubes in right to Earth-3, and she clearly wants to get UltraMan's attention. She wants to get the Crime Syndicate's attention, and boy, she does. But what my favorite part here is, so UltraMan, he's seeing what's going on, but he's far more interested in what's going on in the Owl Cave, where Owlman is essentially having sex with Superwoman Donna Troy, and he could care less about Amanda Waller showing up in downtown Metropolis, so he sends Power Ring to deal with Amanda Waller. Meanwhile, he flies down, and Donna Troy, Superwoman, is clearly playing a game here with Owlman is their little sex toy. And he's tied up with her, sort of like whatever you call it. I think her, they don't call it. It's not. She doesn't have a magic lasso. I think they call it the lasso of compulsion or whatever it is, because it's her lasso. Clearly, Owlman, I don't think it really bothers him that he's tied up by Donna Troy. I figure Donna Troy, if she wants to tie me up, she can do that anytime. Owlman certainly seems to enjoy it, but UltraMan does not. He's absolutely pissed off about this. Donna Troy is clearly trying to antagonize UltraMan. She's playing games with him, and he's fed up and sick of it. And this is very much playing into something that Donna Troy, like Grant Morrison, did this in his hardcover compilation of Earth-2. This sexual sort of game that Superwoman plays, whether she was Lois Lane under Grant Morrison or Donna Troy under Annie Schmidt here and Robbie Thompson and Dennis Hopeless's iteration, it's still played to really great effect. Amanda Waller here they make quick work of Power Ring. They basically the Black Mask comes along and basically incapacitates Power Ring. And
it's Black Hand.
I'm sorry. Thank you. The Black Hand.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Owlman and Donna Troy are basically putting their clothes back on, while UltraMan, he's all fed up and he crashes into the headquarters, and he's all pissed off. And Amanda Waller, I know you hate Amanda Waller, but Amanda Waller, it's so obvious that Amanda Waller is playing the Crime Syndicate. She's planned for this. She's planning this. She's playing them like a fine violin. She knows exactly what she's doing, and she knows what's going on. And it's almost as if she knows of the sexual politics that's going on between Owlman, UltraMan, and Superwoman, because she interrupts them. She gets their attention again, and dismissively, UltraMan sends Owlman over to deal with Amanda Waller, and of course he wants to deal with Donna Troy, and of course he's all pissed off. Now Owlman here, the one thing that sort of throws me off a little bit here is Owlman is played like an idiot. He's played for a fool here, and he's not very intelligent, and that's what I really find odd, because in Andy Schmidt's incarnation, Owlman was very intelligent. He was sort of like he is like the Batman of the Earth-3, but here he's kind of played for a fool, and he's basically a sex. He doesn't stand up for himself. He always seemed to have more gravitas and more agency and more. He was a force to be reckoned with intellectually. That what he lacked in superhuman prowess that UltraMan had, he more than made up for with his intellect, and it was the one thing that I always thought attracted or Superwoman to him. But here he comes across like a fool, and it's his and it actually ends up having him be defeated quite handily. Owlman is almost made a mockery of in this particular issue, which fans of the Crime Syndicate might take offense to. Having said that, I think it kind of works. Now, Owlman does attack Amanda Waller. He's taken out essentially between Black Siren and Mask. And meanwhile, while that happens, Superwoman and UltraMan are looking on, and they're seeing that both Owlman and Power Ring are defeated. And right away, you see Superwoman. She's all upset because, he's mine. Owlman is mine. Because you get a feeling that she has maybe some feelings toward Owlman that maybe go beyond just him being a sex toy to her. You never know. And that seems to piss off UltraMan. But in any event, so clearly, now that's playing out in Earth-3. Meanwhile, then we switch over to Rick Flag. The other Suicide Squad. We get Ambush Bug breaking the fourth wall again, telling us what's happening with Rick Flag's Suicide Squad, which are still on Earth-0, and they're dealing with this with a sort of a crazy Clayface, and one of Amanda Waller's former agents is Rodriguez. She injects herself with something that gives her superpowers, and she becomes almost like a clay-like creature herself, a clay monster, and helps defeat this Clayface monster, where ultimately at the end, Rick Flag and them, they escape this Clayface creature, and they find themselves going toward Earth-3. But before they do that, UltraMan and Superwoman have an altercation with of Amanda Waller's Suicide Squad, and Amanda Waller makes a proposal to UltraMan that UltraMan basically finds it's a deal too good to refuse. And she basically says, look, you're the king of this planet. Let me deal with your problems. Let me deal with all your distractions and your problems and those little annoyances. You be the king and let me deal with the politicians and the headaches. And you don't want that nonsense anyway. Let me worry about that. You just be king and let me kind of be the governor, I guess. I'm paraphrasing. But UltraMan seems attracted to that idea, and she knows exactly what to do to get his attention. It's clear that suddenly Johnny Quick appears. Now, we know Johnny Quick is dead. Well, how is Johnny Quick alive? Well, we know leading up to this that Amanda Waller has used Lazarus resin to resurrect numerous members of, to bring back to life numerous members of the Suicide Squad. And Lazarus resin has been used throughout the DC universe in various titles already, and playing out in numerous titles, including Robin and Suicide Squad, et cetera, et cetera. She resurrects Johnny Quick. We can assume with Lazarus resin that gets UltraMan's attention because Johnny Quick is was a former member of the crime syndicate who died in Andy Schmidt's run, and Johnny Quick tells UltraMan, look, just hear her out, hear what she has to say, and he does that, and of course, by the time Rick Flag and his Suicide Squad team show up to take on Amanda Waller, much to his dismay, he finds out he's facing not only Amanda Waller's Suicide Squad, but also the crime syndicate minus Superwoman, who is elsewhere. She doesn't like Amanda Waller because she doesn't like a woman more powerful or more influential than her. In the meantime, Amanda Waller sweetens the pot with UltraMan by having Talon break the back of Owlman. Now, this is why fans of the crime syndicate, fans of Owlman, wow, this is the ultimate humiliation of Owlman. If this guy's the iteration of Batman for Earth-3, this is the breaking of the bat or the breaking of the owl. And it takes place at the hands of Talon, who is, of course, kind of like an owl himself. And Talon, essentially, Amanda Waller has the master plan of replacing Earth-3 Owlman with the Talon to become the new Owlman for the crime syndicate. At least that's the plan. And meanwhile, of course, it ends with Rick Flag wanting to attack Amanda Waller on Earth-3. And you can imagine his unfortunate dismay when he sees that she's got the backup of UltraMan and Talon is new Owlman and Power Ring and the Black Hand ready to take them on. And this leads in, of course, this is the first part, and this leads into Suicide Squad 13. This is, I love this. I love the excitement of this. I love the build up to this. Robbie Thompson and Dennis Hopeless, they're not pissing around. We get right into the action. I don't think a lot of this needs to be explained. I thought it was easy to follow. I've been following this from the beginning anyway. I'm having fun. I'm actually really curious to know what you didn't like about it. I know you don't like Amanda Waller, but what don't you like about the story?
Well, first of all, I didn't think that Owlman's characterization was super out of character like you did. I took it as sort of maybe a little bit of a hangover from the Lasso of Persuasion. So,
Oh, maybe.
yeah, it's entirely possible. I also thought the exact opposite of you in terms of Donna's reaction, Superwoman's reaction when she sees Owlman defeated, and she says, "No, he's mine." You mentioned that you thought it hinted at some genuine feelings. Again, I took it as exact opposite. She couldn't give a shit about Owlman
You might be
or
right.
UltraMan. They are only playthings to her. And how dare you try to manipulate or puppet string or do anything with stuff that belongs to me?
Yeah.
Keep your hands off my stuff. She doesn't even see. She does not see UltraMan nor Owlman as people. They're just property. Don't touch my property. Get off my lawn. Don't even look at my car. That kind of thing. So
Yeah,
that,
fair enough.
uh, yeah. But as far as my dislike of Amanda Waller, I can set that aside. Um, and I won't mention it here. I've beaten that horse to death. Um, but let's set that aside and let's just talk about Amanda Waller in terms of what her motivations are, why she does what she does. I saw somebody, I think it was Newsarama, that recently wrote an article about her and what a great character she is. Maybe it was actually for the DC website. Regardless, it talked about why she does what she does, how she doesn't take any crap from anybody. And at the end of the day, it's all about this distrust of superpowered people wanting to get power back in the hands of the average citizen and protect America at any cost. Now, what exactly does invading Earth-3 and teaming up, making an offer to UltraMan, wanting to team up and have some sort of agreement with the crime syndicate, how does that in any way dovetail with the actual motivations for the supposed reasons that Amanda Waller was created and who she is as a character in the first place? Again, set aside the whole thing that she's actually a villain and tropey character and all the problems I've had with her over the last decade. Like, let's just focus on like the core of the character. What does her teaming up with the crime syndicate, how does that save America? How does that put power back in the hands of the average Joe? She's doing this for Amanda Waller, and I don't see how it can be spun in any other way. She's doing this because she wants to consolidate power for herself. I don't see how it can be. And again, I mean, up to this point in the story, with that caveat, right? Like, maybe down the line it'll be explained, oh, she's actually going to, once she has Earth-3 under her thumb, she's actually going to use it to fight the great darkness or something like that and save her. Like, that entirely could be possible. But up to this point, from what I've seen in these first couple of issues, from what we've seen in Future State, Suicide Squad, with her machinations and puppet stringing or whatever, it just seems like she's like Doctor Doom. So that doesn't work for me. Also, I didn't find, like, you didn't find the characterization of Owlman to be that accurate. I didn't actually find the characterization of UltraMan to be that on point. Completely on point with the whole jealousy. He's kind of a meathead, watching Owlman and Superwoman get it on and being all pissed off, and to the point of, hey, Earth-3 is being invaded. He doesn't care about that. He just cares that the woman he wants is having sex with somebody that's not him. Totally on point. What's not on point is some non-superpowered person who comes and invades his Earth. How dare they? And then makes him an offer. Oh, you don't want to deal with blah blah blah. The everyday minutia of ruling. No, he wouldn't care. He doesn't care about the everyday minutia of ruling. He just ignores it. He doesn't care if the trains run on time. He's UltraMan. How dare you question? How dare you say he can't do it all? So, hey, non-superpowered person standing in front of me making this offer, zap with my heat vision, and you're dead. Game over. That's, to me, that's Ultraman. That's what he would do.
We don't know what we don't know what else we told him after Johnny Quick told Ultraman to hear her out. Remember, she has Lazarus resin, and we know that Kara, his cousin, is in a coma like state, or is arguably or possibly even dead, and she could be resurrected too.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I don't think she gets to her second sentence. He doesn't care. He doesn't listen. But Johnny Quick's back. So what? Ultraman doesn't care about anybody but Ultraman. And so
he cares about family. I mean, that was a stab. He cares. He doesn't want to be alone. That's why he was so devastated when Kara died.
Yeah, but he can't admit that. That's showing a sign of weakness. Yeah. So to me, this idea that Ultraman would and don't forget about the other part of Ultraman's personality, this addiction to kryptonite that causes severe paranoia. You're right. He doesn't like to be alone. But he doesn't trust anybody. So I can't imagine him making any agreement for any reason whatsoever with Amanda Waller, because his paranoia just wouldn't allow it. So again, this is just how I interpret these characters and why it didn't really work for me. But yeah, your mileage may vary, and obviously it does. But yeah, those are the things that I didn't care about. As far as the pacing and the art and the action, I thought that all worked pretty well. I actually probably enjoyed the Suicide Squad issue that we're about to talk about a little more. But yeah, this it isn't for me. But then again, I kind of knew that going in. I knew I wasn't really going to like this, because I didn't like it when we got it in Future State, and I haven't liked the Amanda Waller aspects of what Robbie Thompson has been doing in Suicide Squad.
It's interesting that you mentioned Future State, because I will say that one of the things that doesn't quite line up with Future State, at least not yet, and maybe it never will, is that in the Future State, the crime syndicate, they were all taken off. They were all seemingly killed. They were all killed. We were told they were killed, and they were in stasis tubes in Suicide Squad Future State. Now, that's no longer such a big deal, since we know that it's Lazarus resin, and we know that because Johnny Quick was revived, presumably Amanda Waller has brought Lazarus resin with her to Earth-3. So maybe at some point, maybe the future that took place in the Future State Suicide Squad, that will actually happen. But I don't think it will anymore. I don't think that is a future that's actually going to happen. So that's a little wonky there. I'm choosing to just ignore it and enjoy this adrenaline rush of the series so far, because the wild cards here, it's a wild card to me that we're going to end up, after Suicide Squad, we're going to be going over to the Flash, and then we're going to be, we might have some wonky crossovers here, and I'm still surprised that we're going to end up seeing Nightwing at some point, apparently. But in any event,
it crosses over with Teen Titans Academy too.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so even that's a little bit wonky to me. How are we going to get Teen Titans Academy in this? But anyways, it's fun though. It's probably the one thing that might actually make an issue of Teen Titans Academy really fun. but yeah. Well, obviously our mileage has varied on that. But you want to start us off with the Suicide Squad issue 13?
No, take it away. Go ahead and do the recap.
Okay. All right. Yeah,
I will say, the one thing I will say before you dive in, there is a time jump between the end of that issue and the beginning of this one, in terms of the Suicide Squad issue opens up with them licking their wounds after having gotten their butts kicked.
Yeah,
the Rick Flag Suicide Squad.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and the manner in which Robbie Thompson and Dennis Hopeless craft the narrative in this issue is that there are time jumps where they show the aftermath with Rick Flag and Bloodsport clearly, getting rid of a lot of blood, and Mirror Master is an absolute mess, and you can tell they got their butts handed to them in this part 2 of War for Earth-3. The battle sequences here are really excellent. I mean, one of my favorite characters turning is Black Siren. I mean, she spends, I tell you what, she is constantly screaming and taking out the bad guys. But I really like the way this works here. I the and Peacemaker and Ambush Bug again. So Ambush, it's interesting. Ambush Bug is a character who's constantly breaking the fourth wall, and I know that there are some people who really don't like Ambush Bug. They feel he breaks the fourth wall a little bit too often, and sometimes he can get a little bit annoying. But I don't find that he takes us out of the story. Some people disagree with me on that and feel that him breaking the fourth wall all the time is maybe a little bit too excessive. But I'm having fun with it. The battle sequence here that rages between Rick Flag's Suicide Squad and Amanda Waller's. I mean, clearly they're completely outmatched. Power Ring deals handily with Peacemaker. Amanda Waller has she's actually in the daily planet of Earth-3, and Rodriguez has been captured. She is her former assistant that betrayed her and became like a clay-like creature in the opening issue of War for Earth-3. But Amanda Waller doesn't know how to kill her because she's a creature of sand. UltraMan incapacitated Rodriguez by using his heat vision to turn her as a sand creature into glass. And so now she's captured. And it shows that sequence is shown here to good effect, going back and forth, showing how Rick Flag's Suicide Squad, how they were all defeated. There's actually a kind of an interesting sequence where Mirror Master, I like the way that Robbie Thompson and Dennis Hopeless choreographed sort of the fight scene here with Rodriguez being turned into glass with heat vision. But the moment you turn into glass, well, Mirror Master can use the glass fragments to escape, to take Rick Flag and Bloodsport to basically escape, and that's essentially what they do. Meanwhile, of course, we got Match and Nocturna having sex literally in hell, and they're actually...
Yeah, what about the whole mashup that we get of the Demon Etrigan and Brainiac? Brainiac 666. That's new, right? I've never seen that before on Earth-3. I didn't know that Brainiac and Etrigan were... So basically, Brainiac he's the one that has the curse of Etrigan the Demon on Earth-3?
I actually don't. I should have thought of that. I don't have my multiversity with me. He might not be from Earth-3. He might be from another Earth. Because remember, Amanda Waller was recruiting Suicide Squad members from all the multiverse. Right. So he might be, I suspect he's from another Earth.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But I would have to double check that. But you piqued my curiosity. But I like seeing this sort of like this playful sort of like love signs of affection between Nocturna and Match. It's very different between the type of affection you see between Owlman and Superwoman in the opening issue, and so I actually like that here, that you're kind of getting you're getting pieces of both worlds here. And in any event, Amanda Waller, of course, wants to she basically Amanda Waller underestimates the power of love, because Nocturna, because Match is basically, Amanda Waller took the memories away from Match, because Match was falling in love with Nocturna, and she basically, because Match is kind of a clone, Amanda Waller took away his memories, and you thought sort of he became more of a soldier of Amanda Waller, but Nocturna kisses him and sort of snaps him out of it and sort of brings him back. And so that's interesting. So there are potential wild cards there. Meanwhile, there's a huge revelation, which I think is awesome, because I'm glad that Owlman isn't dead. I wasn't sure if they were going to kill Owlman. I'm thinking, my God, are they going to replace Owlman with Earth-0 Talon? But no, they're not. It looks like Talon, of course. We know that Talon and Culebra, we know that they don't like. They're always working against Amanda Waller, and they still are. And their master plan is to actually use Owlman, who is still alive. Talon did not kill him. He's still alive. They want to use Owlman to find out the secrets of the crime syndicate, to find a way to take down UltraMan, who's, of course, the most powerful person on Earth-3, the Superman of Earth-3. And this is where, I mean, Owlman is really played for a fool. And again, I can't emphasize enough how much of a genius level intellect Owlman was. Certainly he was played that way in Grant Morrison's version. In even Andy Schmidt's version, Owlman was quite intelligent. Even leading up to Death Metal, in Death Metal.
Yeah. Also, Forever Evil as well. He was.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. He was genius level intellect. Here he jokes that he doesn't even know what a computer is, that he calls it, that thing's a television. What am I, a tech bro? And now maybe Owlman is just playing them for a fool. Maybe he's intentionally playing stupid. So, he is, again, he could just be pretending to be dumb. But, Celebra here is killed by Johnny Quick. She comes back in her ghost form because she's got ghost form powers that she developed because of her interactions with the Lazarus resin for some reason, unlike other people. And she infiltrates, and almost like Deadman-like powers, reminds me of Boston Brand's Deadman powers. Celebra sort of enters the body of Owlman and actually can access his thoughts, and she knows, she confirms that Owlman is a dumbass, but a paranoid, vindictive one, and he knows how to take down UltraMan. So, interesting. Then we flash forward. We concurrent with that, we have Peacemaker and Ambush Bug. They're in the Fortress of Solitude on Earth-3, on what would be, I guess, UltraMan's Fortress of Solitude. And they're looking for something to take down UltraMan. And so many interesting little things. Instead of the Bottle City of Kandor, there's a Bottle City there. But, Peacemaker looks at it, and it's like a bunch of tiny people are screaming inside of Kandor. It's like UltraMan is he's got a sick, twisted version of think of all of Superman's artifacts, and think of them in their most terrorizing form, and that's what UltraMan has in his fortress. And they want to find something to take him down. They find a Phantom Zone gun, and before they can take it, Donna Troy shows up, Superwoman, and it looks like their interests are aligned here. Superwoman wants to take out Amanda Waller because, Owlman is hers, UltraMan is probably hers too. Superwoman is not going to stand for another woman. I mean, it's very easy to see that Superwoman doesn't like Amanda Waller, because if there's going to be an alpha female on Earth-3, it's not going to be Amanda Waller. It's going to be Donna Troy, Superwoman. And so that's not surprising at all. Peacemaker tries to tell Superwoman, look, our interests are aligned here. Help us out. Let's use the Phantom Zone projector. Let's take out UltraMan, and let's win the day. The only reason Superwoman never took out Amanda Waller earlier is because Amanda Waller got to UltraMan first, made that proposal to him, and of course, Superwoman knows that she can't defeat UltraMan, and so she basically flew off. Now, of course, in the meantime, before anything can be done, Black Siren and Johnny Quick show up, and Johnny Quick steals the Phantom Zone gun, which basically is, it appears to be, that's likely their only weapon that they could use against UltraMan to stop him. So the only mechanism they have to stop UltraMan now is going to be whatever secrets Celebra has gained from entering the mind of Owlman. And really, that's how this particular issue ends. And man, I love all these moving parts. I find this easy to follow. I find it fun. It's an adrenaline rush, and same compliments as I give the first issue. And I don't know. Did you enjoy this at least better than the first chapter, or are you still just shaking your head at it all?
No, I enjoyed this issue a lot more. And, it's like we get a lot less Amanda Waller in this issue. I don't know if that's why I enjoyed it more. But I mean, this one was wall-to-wall action. There wasn't any characterization. We get very little UltraMan in this one as well. So there wasn't any characterization that really didn't sit right with me. I do agree with you on the Owlman. He does come across as a little, I mean, especially that bro, like it's a TV bro, or what am I, tech bro? Like, yeah, that I'm just not sure if they've got his characterization. I was willing to give him a pass on the first issue. This one less so, but I do wonder. We did, I think you mentioned it, him showing up in one of the Dark Knight Death Metal one shots. And I think if I remember correctly, he sacrificed himself in that issue because he knew he would be reincarnated.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe we can think, hey, okay, he did reincarnate, but not as smart as he was, because it doesn't jive with what we've seen in Forever Evil and Grant Morrison's Multiversity and whatnot. But yeah, a lot of moving parts in this issue. I think if I had to give any compliment, the best thing that's done by Hopeless and Robbie Thompson here is the balancing act that everybody gets a little bit of time on screen. And the art's also fantastic. Like it's you
really
never
good.
get to catch your breath. It's like one action scene after another. The Black Siren page, the last page is awesome. When Superwoman goes to attack, saying Owlman was mine. That was a fantastic page. The pages of that you mentioned with Nocturna and Match. Like I'm all for their relationship. I think they make a really good couple. It's not anybody that I ever would have thought. I mean, there are B-list characters at best, but yeah, they just work together as a couple. Culebra and Talon work together as a team very well. They don't work on that same kind of romantic level, but Robbie Thompson has, throughout his run, really put them together as friends and teammates that work really well together, and that's fantastic as it plays out in this as well. So yeah, I mean, it's done really, really well. It's a very technically well put together story that's paced very well with great art. So yeah, even though I might not necessarily be a big fan of the story, I recognize the fact that yeah, a lot of what I was having an issue with in the first part was the inconsistency and lack of proper motivation for Amanda Waller, and she doesn't show up in this issue. We're focused on so many other aspects of the story. I think it leads me to enjoying it a lot more. So yeah, going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I'm really enjoying this, and I love the whole. I'm just this feels what I like about this. It's done in a month too. We're not going to be waiting forever for it, and that's what I really like about it. And like I said, I just and even the covers, I like the fact that a little bit of forethought was put into the covers, so it'll be fun to collect all the issues and put them side by side. I mean, there's the cool fanboy aspect of that, and even though I'm a little disappointed maybe with some of the alternate covers that I see. The bottom line is the connecting covers are kind of cool, and we're going to be getting Flash, Teen Titans Academy crossover. That just seems like this is the oddest kind of. If you'd have told me we had a crossover between Suicide Squad, Flash, and Teen Titans Academy, I thought you were crazy. But here we are, War for Earth-3 of all things, and this is actually, I think this is just a pleasant surprise. And so far, these first two issues, I'm really curious to see how things end up, and because it almost, oh my God, they would have to really screw this up for me not to like it already, because I want the Crime Syndicate to kind of get the upper hand at the end, because I want Earth-3 to end up being evil bastards on Earth-3. That's the whole point of Earth-3. And Amanda Waller is kind of, if she's kind of a bastard jerk, I know you don't like her. Earth-3 is probably the best place for Amanda Waller. I don't know why she just doesn't move there and call it a home. I mean, so, and her true machinations, I don't think we really know what they are yet. Maybe we do, maybe we don't, but I'm hoping, because you alluded to something, Jace, that I think was, very, very astute, and that is that something's not really. I mean, why does Amanda Waller care about Earth-3? I mean, because you're right. I mean, normally she's all about government control. She's a control freak. She doesn't have a particularly great relationship with metahumans. And when she does deal with them, she prefers them with bombs in their heads or being controlled with Lazarus resin. I mean, she's not someone who likes to relinquish control. And here she is going to Earth-3, dealing with, could you be on a planet that has more crazy superhumans than Earth-3? And they're all about control. So it's odd that she would go there of all places, and yet, we know what happens in the future state, but I can't imagine her. And remember, in future state, it's suggested at the end that she went there to give Earth-3 its own Superman with Match, but he wasn't Match in future state. We just knew him as Connor. And so, but that's a different future now, because we know he's Match. We know he's not Connor. And we know, and Talon was killed. Talon was Batman in the future state. And there was so much that was different. Like, there was things, it doesn't quite add up, the future state issues. And so almost, and you and I have talked about this before, how it's almost as if it's better if we forget Future State ever happened, because it sort of, it taints our the flow of the present series. But in any event, I'm enjoying this, and I hope other people are too.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the Flash issue, which comes up next. I think it's 738. I think is the next issue. Or
yeah,
768.
I think.
Anyway, I mean,
yeah,
just because it's Jeremy. This is somewhat of a darker story.
Yeah.
And it's Jeremy Adams writing this, so we've talked about Jeremy Adams' Flash run extensively, and we've talked to Jeremy himself about it. And clearly that is a series that is much more hopeful, much more bright, much more light in tone. So having this dark story crossover with that, I'm going to be really curious to see how it plays out. I'm looking for the issue. I guess it's a couple weeks out. 780, Flash 780. Yeah. So we'll see. War for Earth-3 Part 3.
Yeah. Well, I know I'm in for the long haul. I this is definitely another one of those things. I suspect I'll be picking up a trade at some point as well, because it seems like a lot. It seems like a lot of fun, and because I would love. I miss the days of the annual JSA JLA crossovers between Earth-1 and Earth-2. I would love to have an annual battle between Earth-1 and Earth-3, or Earth-0 and Earth-3, or just, I would like, if I was an editor at DC, it would be mandatory. We have to have the Crime Syndicate pissing somebody off every year in a comic book. But yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah.
All right. Any last thoughts?
No, man. I just I'm kudos to I don't know the influence that Dennis Hopeless has had. It feels like a Robbie Thompson to me. It feels like Robbie Thompson's I've been enjoying his writing. I'd be interested to hear an interview with Robbie Thompson to see what type of collaboration him and Dennis Hopeless have had. Like what ideas were Dennis Hopeless's, which ideas were Robbie Thompson's, because if I didn't know better, I wouldn't know that Robbie Thompson had any writer collaborating with him on this. But I can tell you that in my view, Dennis Hopeless hasn't, at least in my view, hasn't really taken away. I think he's, if anything, maybe he's added something fresh and new to the narrative. And and again, because there's been some naysayers of Dennis Hopeless's Marvel work, and I'm not really all that familiar with his Marvel work. I enjoyed his Spider-Woman, but he's got some naysayers over it that Marvel that kind of warned me and said, well, it's Dennis Hopeless, so it's it's probably not going to be very good. And I'm thinking, I don't know. I'm reading this and I'm really enjoying this, and I've so far I got a shit-eating grin on my face, and I'm enjoying the run so far. So, look, until he does something that annoys me. I mean, kudos to Dennis Hopeless, Robbie Thompson, and the art here is fantastic. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, so 2 issues this first week, coming out on March 1st. Nothing the second week of March on the 9th or 8th, I guess it would be. And then, we've got Part 3 with Flash 780 on the 15th. And then on the 22nd, we've got the Teen Titans Academy issue, which is part number 4. And then on the 29th, I guess it is, to your point about them finishing this up in 1 month, we have War for Earth-3 Part 2, which finishes up the story. So I think it's 6 issues total, right? We've got 1 issue of Suicide Squad, 1 issue of Flash, 1 issue of Teen Titans Academy. Oh no, so I guess only 5 issues.
5,
and then 2 issues of War for Earth-3. So we'll see how it plays out. Very curious about that Flash issue in a couple weeks with the hopefulness of that. Rafa Sandoval's, or not Rafa Sandoval, he's the artist, but Tim Sheridan's Teen Titans Academy has sort of been all over the place in tone. So I don't think that this will really impact that one way or the other. So
well, that closes things out for the week. I'm glad that we separated this out. I'm glad that we did this. I know that we usually have a longer DC weekly review, but I think this deserved its own special separation from the rest of the clan, because I really love the fact that we have part 1 and part 2 in the same week, because I was so glad when I finished reading War for Earth 3 and I realized that Suicide Squad 13's out the same week. I thought, this is awesome. Because I immediately read, these were the first 2 comics that I read when we got the preview copies, because I don't know, I love it. I'm quite enjoying it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad I've had to read part 2 also, because I enjoyed it so much more than part 1. I mean, the biggest aspect of this that we didn't really mention, but we probably should, is what are going to be the long-lasting consequences of this, specifically for the Suicide Squad and Amanda Waller, because that might be the long-lasting legacy of this, whether it ends up being a memorable event or not. Because we know that Suicide Squad, this version of Suicide Squad, this volume, is ending with issue 15. So is Suicide Squad going to exist? Is Amanda Waller going to be around? Like, is it going to start over with a new number 1? Like, we don't know. But by the time this is all said and done, we probably will. Although, if I had to guess, Suicide Squad ends. We know Teen Titans Academy ending. I wouldn't expect to see a Suicide Squad title or a Teen Titans title or a Titans title until after the Dark Crisis is over. It sort of feels like those are ending to lead into Dark Crisis after, whatever the fallout is from Death of Justice League.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also think, and I'm obviously just speculating, but I think I wonder if maybe the success of the Peacemaker TV show would have some impact on the decision making, because the Suicide Squad series does seem to have its own tale, that because it initiated and started and was connected to Earth-3 right out of the gate with Future State, and with dealing with multiple incarnations of more than one Suicide Squad. I think it maybe suffered from maybe not being entirely new reader friendly. And because of the success of the Peacemaker TV show, maybe if they're unquestionably, I think it's clear they're going to bring Suicide Squad back in some form in the next 6 months to a year. One could almost guarantee that. And because I can't see them, DC wants, I'm sure Warner Brothers or DC, AT&T wants to capitalize on Peacemaker in the comic books. I mean, yeah, we get a lot of Batman, but I mean, I just can't see them not wanting to take more advantage of Peacemaker in comic books. So to cancel Suicide Squad and not bring it back with Peacemaker at the forefront, that's my prediction. And Amanda Waller, maybe she'll be taken off the playing field and stay on Earth-3 for a while. And also another wild card here, and let's not forget, there's an Amanda Waller on Earth-3. What about the Earth-3's version of Amanda Waller? What's she up to in all this? Or does she even play a role? And maybe I'm just throwing a wrinkle in there and I should just keep my mouth shut. I don't want to confuse things, but there's so many different questions, all kinds of these questions that I have. But in any event, fun stuff.
Yeah, the only thing I would say about doing some sort of Suicide Squad coming back with Peacemaker, I almost think they would just do a comic called Peacemaker to not confuse people. But the other elephant in the room, obviously, is DC preparing for Discovery to take them over in terms of running the day-to-day operation. So it's hard to say what kind of, I mean, is anything coming down from Warner Brothers passing or coming down from AT&T passing through Warner Brothers going to editorial? At times we've referred to DC as a rudderless ship. We know Murray Javins is technically the editor-in-chief, but God only knows what kind of stuff is going on over there in terms of, hey, we should be putting out a Peacemaker series. We shouldn't. What should we do? Like, what kind of stewardship is really going on there? I mean, again, God only knows, and it could change at a moment's notice once Discovery finally takes it over. I did see where it finally became public knowledge that DC is sort of closing their offices in terms of the current space that they've been using. They've been working remote for a long time, but I personally know some DC staffers that would try to get into the office at least once a week. Well, that's all going away. Apparently the space is too valuable. And with all the layoffs and the fact that they've been able to work remotely all this time without a big impact in productivity. I guess the powers that be that Warner Brothers are like, well, why are we giving them an office that they don't need and aren't using? So they're taking that away, and they're apparently they're going to be in an office space that's more of a shared office space, so it's just a bunch of generic desks, and nobody is like, okay, this is Joe's desk and this is Stephanie's desk and this is Bill's desk. You just go in and sit down at a desk when you happen to be in the office once a week or twice a week or whatever it is, and you just use whatever desk is available, but not everybody is there at the same time. So it's a little mercenary in execution.
I gotta wonder though. Like I remember, I read stories about back in the day during the 60s, 70s, and 80s where comic writers and artists they would all work in the same building, and when they talked about they didn't need to have summits, and they didn't need to have this because you were constantly talking to each other, and you're in the lunchroom, and you were communicating like that, and now it seems
really. It wasn't really like that though. Like that whole myth of the Marvel bullpen where the writer and the artist were, both had even then they were freelancers, and they worked at their own studios, or they worked at their own homes, and they'd come into the office all the time, but it wasn't, other than cross-gen, because that was part of the incredibly lucrative salary that Mark Alessi provided, was that he really did want that, and I think that's part of the reason that cross-gen was so successful early on, but it led to its own problems. But I get your point, but it's a little bit of a myth. But I think, don't get me wrong, there are some people that like to work from home. Certainly with the way gas prices are right now, that's a plus. But I also know I personally know some DC staffers that wanted to be back in the office, and now they're not even going to get that chance, at least not on a permanent basis, at least not soon. I mean, who knows? But again, this is all subject to change when Discovery takes over, and Discovery could say, hey, we got all this office space for you over here. But apparently the DC offices took up like 3 spaces, in the Burbank area. And I've never seen the inside of the offices, but anybody who follows DC on social media, or some people like George Perez, for example, recently visited there. There was a bunch of pictures of him and Marv Wolfman in the lobby. Right. Jim Lee posts pictures all the time. Like, it's a really cool spot. And now that goes away. That bothers me a little bit.
Yeah, no, like I said, I mean, I guess another corporate shift so soon after AT&T taking over, now Discovery. Yeah. I mean, at some point, when we already had a huge kerfuffle, we already had a bunch of layoffs, and now are we gonna have more layoffs, or if we're not layoffs, are we just gonna have like replacements? Are we gonna have another creative shuffle? I mean, it's really, I really have to wonder, because I know Discovery, AT&T made the decision they did because Discovery might have more experience in dealing with TV and intellectual property and publishing, maybe, presumably. I mean, I don't know. I choose to be positive about it, but it makes me wonder what things are going to look like, because it's a little bit bothersome. Like, what is DC going to be publishing 1 year from now? I mean, the farthest ahead we've gotten on the advertising is Dark Crisis. What happens post Dark Crisis? I mean, that's like 4 months away. I mean, holy moly. And we don't.
Well, you've heard the rumors. Have you heard the rumors about some giant DC merger?
Is that fake news? I guess not. You mean DC merging with who?
Well, that's the thing. Like, nobody wants to say. It's just, there's been rumors that they're going to merge. So does that mean that the comic division's going to fold completely and get folded in with something else? Some other creative field? Like, I have no idea.
Yeah,
I have no idea. But all I know is this: Warner Brothers is never going to sell it. Like, any of those stupid rumors you hear about, Marvel's going to take them over, Disney's going to buy DC. Yeah. No, Warner Brothers and what parent company, even though Discovery will be calling it day-to-day shots and will have a huge influx in investment capital, AT&T still is the majority stakeholder. They will never sell DC Comics. The value of the IP is too valuable. So it happens every time these rumors start. I see people on Twitter, oh, Marvel's going to buy them. Disney's going to buy them. No, that will never, ever happen.
Yeah, I know.
Ever.
And I suspect that the Batman movie is going to be very successful because the reviews are awesome and I want it to make $1 billion.
Yeah, Disney would have to buy AT&T, which that would never happen because AT&T owns too many things that by law Disney's not allowed to own because of governmental regulations, how many networks you can own, how many broadcast stations you can own, stuff like that. So that's never going to happen. So anyway, that's neither here nor there when we're talking about the War for Earth-3. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to go check out our other DC Spotlight episode that came out today for all the other books. And yeah, that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll talk to you next time.
See you later.